What's up, everybody? It's La Muerta Blanca, and nobody told me this, but ID Software apparently partnered up with Gearbox because Doom Guy is in Borderlands 3. Actually, that's a complete lie. Do not believe that. I just completely made that up. However, I also made up an awesome Zane build that is reminiscent of the Doom Guy. So for those of you that are like me and cannot wait for Doom Eternal or played the Doom that came out a couple years ago and absolutely loved it and want to relive some of those memories, you can play Doom more or less in Borderlands 3 with this build. Before I go into this build and what makes it unique and fun, I do want to be very clear when I say this for all the haters that are about to drop comments about, oh, this build sucks, this isn't viable, you can't kill bosses with this build, there are way other better builds. I am not saying this is the most OP build you can do with Zane. I am not saying that this is a one-shot boss build. I am saying, and I will argue this as much as I need to, if you are a fan of Doom, as I am, if you just want really fast movement speed and a lot of power to go along with it, this will probably be one of the most fun builds you will have in Borderlands 3. When I think Doom Guy, I think three things. I think speed, power, and semi-invulnerability. When you're playing Doom, you're running around that arena, you are killing demons left and right. You're doing it very quickly because of the movement speed you have in Doom. You're running around with all these awesome overpowered weapons, and you are doing it with that sense of invulnerability because you get those buffs in Doom as you run around and kill different things, get those health pickups. Same principles apply with this build. So you might be thinking to yourself, that's awesome. How do I get my very own Doom Guy? There's a certain set of skills and items that you need in order to create the Doom Guy build. Jumping off straight into the skill tree, Violent Momentum. Zane's gun damage is increased while moving. The quicker he moves, the greater the gun damage bonus. This is probably the single most important skill that you are going to use in this entire build. The faster you are, the more damage you are going to do. Works very closely to how Doom works. You're going to survive and do more damage as you run around and take out those demons. Violent Speed. So after killing an enemy, Zane gains increased movement speed for a few seconds. This is going to be one of the key skills that you will definitely need for this build because it's all about moving fast and doing damage. So we're putting 5 points into this. Then we come down to Salvation. It's another kill skill. After killing an enemy, Zane's weapons gain lifesteal for a few seconds. So this skill is great for keeping you alive. As you'll see when we get into the weapons, you're going to be up in a lot of close-up encounters. So you're going to need that lifesteal in order to keep you around for those either longer battles or those battles that you're doing in those mayhem modes. Then we put 1 point into drone delivery. The SNTNL will occasionally drop a free grenade based on Zane's current grenade mod while attacking enemies. We are using the drone and we are using the shield for this build. So we do not have the ability to throw grenades. So it is nice, especially since it only is going to cost us 1 point, to allow our drone to throw a grenade for us, especially if we have a nice grenade mod like a Hex or Firestorm or something of that nature that could do a ton of damage. We're just not able to use it because we have 2 action skills. Then we went with 4 points in Cool Hand. Zane gains increased reload speed. It is a kill skill. After killing an enemy, Zane's reload speed is increased for a few seconds. Naturally, just getting increased reload speed, and then after we kill an enemy, the reload speed is even greater. Once we get into our weapons, you will see how important this is. This is probably one of the last skills I topped off because there were a handful of skills that I was debating between, but the key weapon for this entire build, again, which you'll see in a second, is why we went with reload speed. And then we come down to Death Follows Close. All of Zane's kill skills gain increased effect and duration. As you can see, we're already using a ton of kill skills, so this is a must for this entire build. All of our kill skills are getting a 25% bonus to whatever effect they are, whether it be the lifesteal or the movement speed or the gun damage because of the movement speed, the reload speed, whatever it may be, we're getting that extra 25%. And the kill skills are going to last an extra 7 seconds, which is going to be a very long amount of time based on how quickly we're moving around. Then we come over to playing Dirty. It is a kill skill. After killing an enemy, Zane's next 5 shots have a chance to fire an additional projectile. This is a 63% chance, not to mention the extra 25% that we're adding as far as that kill skill bonus goes. So an extra projectile is going to be huge for any build that you're using with Zane if you're using the Hitman tree, because you're potentially having that chance to do double damage. Then we get Good Misfortune. It is a kill skill. Killing an enemy increases Zane's action skill duration. This skill has diminishing returns. As you will see, the way this build works is we are going to throw out our action skills, and we need to keep those action skills as active as possible in order to get a lot of the buffs that we need for this particular build. So in order to do that, we run around, kill a bunch of enemies, keep that action skill duration up, and then keep those action skills out, and then we continue to get the buffs, continue to get the kills, rinse, repeat. Then finally, an amazing capstone. Activating an action skill automatically activates all of Zane's kill skills. So now we don't even have to kill an enemy to get all these buffs. All we have to do is throw out our drone, throw out our barrier, and immediately all of these action skills are being activated. For the drone, we decided to use Bad Dose as our first augment. SNTNL occasionally shoots out a beam of radiation that weakens enemies and buffs Zane. For every weakened enemy, Zane's movement speed and fire rate are increased. Weakened enemies have decreased movement speed and attack speed. This was chosen strictly for the movement speed buff that we'll get by having our drone out. So we get movement speed from violent speed, we get movement speed from Bad Dose, we're gonna get movement speed from a couple other areas that you'll see. Basically, we're trying to be able to move as fast as possible in order to do as much damage as possible through violent momentum. And then the second skill that we decided to do is Static Field. SNTNL emits a static field that sends a shock beam to nearby enemies, draining their shields and replenishing Zane's. This is one of those survivability skills that I decided to add on in order to keep us alive a little bit longer. There is a huge emphasis on kill skills and damage when it comes to the actual skills for this build, so I want to try and balance it out a little bit with some survivability by allowing our drone to give us that shield regeneration. Then we come over to the double agent tree, which is where we fill out the rest of our skills. Again, working on action skill duration, movement speed, in order to really complement what we have going on in this build. So we start by throwing 5 points in synchronicity. Whenever one or more Zane's action skills are active, he gains increased gun damage for each active action skill. So by throwing out our barrier and our drone, we're getting an extra 20% gun damage. And then that pairs very well with Borrow Time, which Zane gains increased action skill duration for every action skill. So it's an extra 15% duration for both skills. And if we throw both skills out like we're supposed to, that's an extra 30% action skill duration. Not to mention the Good Misfortune skill that we have, where we're getting the extra action skill duration for the kills that we're getting, that is going to be stacking on top of that. Then we come down to Donnybrook. It is another kill skill. Whenever Zane kills an enemy, he and his digiclone receive increased gun damage and gain health regen for a few seconds. Completely ignore the digiclone because we're not using the digiclone. This is important because it is another kill skill that will activate as soon as we use any one of our action skills, because we have the capstone from the Hitman tree and we're getting gun damage, not to mention health regen. So it's going to be great for the damage that we're trying to do, as well as helping us balance this out, because health regen is going to be huge for this build, so we don't die nearly as often as we would otherwise. We also needed those points in these 3 skills because all of the others really focus on the clone quite a bit, but we're not using the clone. But we did have to get down here to Supersonic Man, which whenever one or more Zane's action skills are active, he gains increased movement speed for each action skill. So 16 times 2, if we have both action skills out, that is 32% movement speed on top of the movement speed that we are getting from Violent Speed, on top of the movement speed buff that we're getting from Bad Dose, on top of the movement speed buffs that you'll see from our equipment. But Blanca, we have all of our skills in the Hitman tree and the Double Agent tree, but we're using the barrier. What gives? We're using the barrier because of the damage bonus that we get by shooting through the barrier, as well as the extra protection that we're going to get by having the barrier. The only buff that really correlates well with this build in terms of the movement speed and the damage and everything else that we're trying to do when it comes to this particular skill is Charged Relay. However, I did not feel that it was worth using 5 points in this tree when we needed those points to get us all the way down to Supersonic Man, or to get the capstone for Seeing Red, as well as the additional buffs that we needed in order to make us a more viable threat offensively. So that is why we're using a barrier without any augments. If you choose to forego this extra defense, then by all means be my guest and use the digiclone. However, I felt that the barrier was more viable because you could pick up the barrier, run around with the barrier, and that offer you more protection, because with this build you need to constantly be moving, not only to just feel like the Doom guy because you move out quite a lot in Doom, but also because you're going to be dodging quite a lot of projectiles, and that's going to help you with your survivability. Whereas if you're just hanging out and not doing too much, then you're going to be getting shot and you're going down fairly quickly. So those are the skills. Again, guys, focusing on movement speed, focusing on damage, focusing on keeping those action skills out as long and as often as possible. So what about the equipment? You cannot have a Doom build on Borderlands 3 unless you have the Doom shotgun, aka the speed loading Hellwalker. Now you can see this is anointed. I found a ton of these shotguns, and every single one that I found has been anointed, and it has been anointed with this action skill. The great thing about this shotgun is that when you shoot it, it makes the Doom noise. And even better, when you pick up this shotgun, you hear the Doom music in the background, and you're just ready to go. You're ready to just run around, drop your action skills, and just light everything up. Normally, this shotgun has one shot. As you can see in the footage that I have, I actually have two, but I have a magazine increase from one of my items, which is a huge help to this weapon because you do get more shots before having to reload. But if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. What about the other weapons? The shotgun is really the main weapon that you need. The other three weapons, I just try to find some kind of weapon that really went well with the build or really just was reminiscent of Doom, because you're trying to fill that archetype of, playing Doom in Borderlands. The Shocking Vanquisher is the SMG that I decided to go with. Honestly, as an SMG or just a legendary weapon in general, I don't think this weapon is very great. It doesn't do a ton of damage compared to the other SMGs. The Cutsman, even the Chaos and the Nighthawken, in my opinion, are all better. However, you are going to be doing quite a bit of sliding and moving around extremely quickly. And the way this weapon works is not only do you get a 20% increase to your slide speed, which again is going to be impacting your movement speed, but it also doubles the rate of fire while you're sliding. So because of the little buffs that it has to the gun when you are sliding or moving around very quickly, that's why I chose it. If you don't like this gun, don't use it, no big deal. This is just what I chose. I also have a radiation laser exploder. There's no real reason why I chose this gun other than the laser exploder seems like something cool that you'd pick up in Doom. I'd rather have this be a corrosive in order to help balance out this build. But again, if you want to choose another weapon, be my guest. Ruby's Wrath is definitely a really cool rocket launcher that I could definitely see in Doom. So Ruby's Wrath, the way it works, it is an Atlas weapon where you throw a vortex grenade, and these vortex grenades actually pull in enemies and then mark them for your smart rockets. Smart rockets that do a decent amount of damage for an Atlas weapon. Now down to the other items which really make this build something special. Other than the shotgun, I do think that the shield, the class mod, as well as the artifact are absolute musts for this build. Starting off with the artifact, we had the Snowdrift Launchpad. Snowdrift is the key for this build because we are getting an increased 102% to slide speed. Again, the faster we're moving, the more damage we're doing. The Launchpad piece, not very important when it comes to this build. However, there is a secondary buff that I have seen on other artifacts that I have not been able to find for the Snowdrift, where it gives you an extra 50% damage to your shotgun while you're sliding. If you can find a Snowdrift that has that buff as well, that would be literally the perfect artifact for this build. So keep an eye out for that while you're playing. Then we have the class mod. The class mod is a must for this build. It is the Bashing Spirited Infiltrator. And there might be different types of infiltrators, but it has to be the infiltrator with this effect. Zane's weapon damage and movement speed are increased. The lower his shield, the greater the bonus. So again, damage, movement speed. The lower your shield, the faster you're moving, the more you're hurting enemies. However, whenever Zane activates an action skill, he breaks his shield. So this is why we have a lot of those survivability skills. This is why we're using the barrier instead of the clone, because you are losing your shield as soon as you activate an action skill. So once you activate an action skill, your movement speed and your damage go through the roof. Not to mention all the kill skills that we have because we activated an action skill. However, you are susceptible to dying fairly quickly when you activate that action skill because you just completely wasted your whole shield. If you have a stopgap shield, this is the perfect complement to that, because on shield break, you become immune to any damage for 5 seconds. This is the way to go because you cannot take damage for those 5 seconds. You can find your cover, you can move around or kill the enemy fairly quickly or do lots of damage to them before you have to worry about taking any damage to your health. There is also another shield that immediately begins recharging when you break it, which could be another option. However, I went with the stopgap because that 5 seconds of immunity I felt was far more valuable than just the option to have your shield recharge, because when you get shot as your shield's recharging, it stops recharging. So that's why I went with the stopgap. As far as the grenade goes, you can choose essentially any grenade that you want. The only thing that's throwing grenades is your drone. I actually love the hex, especially with the cryo hex. You're able to freeze the enemies, and that makes everything a lot easier in terms of running up to them and popping them with your Hellwalker shotgun. So that's why I want that. But if you got another grenade that you like, feel free. The way this build works is you're running around with your Hellwalker shotgun. You see a mob of enemies, you see a boss, you see something that looks tasty and want to kill. You throw out your shield, you throw out your drone, your shield's broken, but you have that 5 seconds of immunity, and you were just run around as fast as hell. And then if you want to move even faster, you can slide around for a little bit because you have the snowdrift. Again, doing so much more damage, just getting in things' faces, popping them with the Doom shotgun. You move like the Doom guy, you're shooting the Doom guy shotgun. You got the Doom guy sound effects going on. If you want to be real cool and you get the proper helmet and you make yourself green, you kind of look like the Doom guy too. I will argue with you that this is probably one of the most fun builds you can have because the high movement speed, the amazing damage that you do. I mean, for a build, it's actually fairly viable. I'm not saying go on Mayhem 3 and solo the Slaughter Shaft, but between the kill skills and the damage that you do with the movement speed and some of the survivability additions I added in order to help balance it out, it actually does a really good job. So guys, that is the Doom guy build in Borderlands. I want to make very clear, ID and Gearbox are not working together. So before you start dropping comments about how I'm making shit up, yes, I already know I just made that up. Sorry you got baited. I don't know what to tell you. But this is the Doom guy build, the closest thing you're going to get to Doom in another game besides Doom. So if you enjoyed this video, please guys, don't forget to drop a like, comment, tell me what you think. What other Zane builds are you guys using? Let me know. Don't forget to subscribe as well and turn on those notifications so you can catch all of the awesome La Muerte Blanca content we have coming down the pipeline. If you guys want to check the live stream, I stream on Mixer, Twitch, as well as here on YouTube. All the links can be found in the description below. I'm La Muerte Blanca, and I'll catch you guys next time.